episode of the Juan podcast. I'm your host as always, and today we have Shayne with us. Shayne, Tron, whichever he wants to go by. It's all good. It's all love. He's a podcast virgin. So, right? Is this your first podcast?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's I'll let you stick the tip in.
Yeah, that's good, dude. It's my honor. We'll drink to that.
Yeah, nice. What are you drinking there?
Some Yingling. A lot of people don't like it, but I'm a lager guy, dude.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's around where I'm at in PA, Pottstown,
Yeah.
Pottsville. Yeah.
Really? This is where they're from?
Yeah, Pottsville.
Oh shit,
PA.
yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's like the beer everybody drinks around here.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, I like it. Like I said, I don't like IPA. I think IPAs taste like piss.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I like maybe the darker beers every now and again, but just Yingling is always the one that I go to no matter what. You know what I mean? Like the Guinness is like too thick for me. I don't like, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to relax. I'm not trying to fucking chug down some fucking tar, you know what I mean?
You're not trying to eat like a loaf of bread.
Exactly. So, dude, Tron over here, he does some dope ass art. I got in contact with him through Paranoid American. Shout out to Thomas. And hopefully he's going to be doing some art for us here coming soon. But, dude, I'm going to just let you introduce yourself, plug in your social media, whatever you want to talk about. And today we might be talking about dreams, psychedelics, a little bit of everything. And we'll see what Shayne told me he had a couple of wet dreams he wanted to talk to me about. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. My name's Shayne Golden, Tron, if you will, on Instagram at Tron's Universe. And yeah, this is my first time on a podcast. A little excited, a little nervous.
What took you so long?
I don't even have an excuse. I really don't. I've been listening to podcasts for years, but just never got on one. So yeah, I'm pumped. I'm doing work right now for Thomas from Paranoid American. We're working on a conspiracy themed adult coloring book. And there's a lot of good ones in there. You know, I know he's slowly been kind of putting them out, but there's some real gems in there, man.
Yeah, he showed me his list, and he showed me some other ideas that he had, and I'm like, bro, where the fuck do you come up with this? And he's like, I know it's a little, niche, but it'll work. It'll work out. I'm like, all right, man. I mean, you know what you're doing, bro. So how'd you get into? I've always been jealous of people who are able to draw, or even authors, right, that are able to come up with this entire universe. And the one that I always talk about is the guy from, I'm drawing a blank. The guy from Game of Thrones. What the fuck's his name?
Martin. George R. R. Martin.
Some shit like that.
Yeah.
Him, how he's able to create this entire universe, or even George Lucas, right, where they're able to create this entire universe and mythos around a story and characters and develop those characters. I've always been jealous of that. I've always wanted to be able to write, and I love H.P. Lovecraft and the whole horror and cosmicism and all this stuff. And how'd you get into drawing, dude? I think art is dope, and I feel that, art talks to everybody on a deeper level when it comes to, it's this crazy thing, right? Because you look at back to Plato's The Republic, where he wanted to limit the arts so people wouldn't be inspired, and art really just touches people's soul, if you will, on a deeper level. How'd you get into drawing? I'm jealous of people who can draw so good, because I have all these crazy ideas but my hand just doesn't move in the right way to be able to convey that idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been drawing ever since I was a kid. My dad, I was telling you about that today. He's a hot rodder. He's always been, both my parents have always really encouraged the arts, always encouraged me creating. Do you remember, it was a television show. I don't know if it was on WHITF or
Sesame
PBS. No, Happy's Playland.
I'm not
Is that
that
ringing
old,
a bell?
bro. I'm only 27.
All right, all right. Well, I mean, I turned 33 in a little bit, so we're not that far off.
Not that far off.
No, huh?
What's it called?
Pappy's Playland.
Happy's. Let's look this shit up. Happy's Playland.
Dude, it was awesome. I remember he would like walk you through. There was like puppets on it and stuff, and he would walk you through like a said piece, like a lion or trees or whatever, and he would walk you through it, and you would draw it along with him, and then at the end he would like, as the credits were rolling, he would have pictures that the kids sent in up there, like whatever drawings they did, he'd have them at the end. And that was the first place I ever got my art on, was Pappy's Playland.
Oh, you were there? You went
And
there? You like actually physically went there?
no, 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 I got one of my drawings got chosen to like, it was almost like a montage at the end where they'd
Oh,
like
nice.
show, yeah, they'd show like what you drew, what the kid drew, and then they'd have your like name and where you were from, like down on the bottom.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I remember doing that with my grandma. She was my babysitter growing up, so and she was, dude, she taught me everything. But yeah, I started drawing there. I was just talking about this with Thomas. In elementary school, I started a comic book, right? With a friend of mine called the Dumb Force.
The dumb
It was
force?
like, yeah, the Dumb Force, right? And it was just I would draw, he would be the writer, I'd do the speech bubbles and the illustrations or whatever. And obviously it's a kid in the fifth grade, but I remember it was so big just in my class. And this one girl, she her dad loved it, okay?
What the fuck?
And yeah, her dad loved it. And I would sell these kids comic books, right? Because my mom had a scanner and a printer at the time because she was a secretary. So she always had like, we had the tech to keep up with her work. So we had a scanner, a printer, and I remember just making tons of copies of these and handing them out in school for like 5 cents, 10 cents, a quarter, at lunch, buy me a chocolate milk or something like that. And this girl's dad loved it so much. I remember the first piece of merchandise that I ever sold with my art or whatever. There's this character named Froggy, and he was just some stupid, very just like, he looked like a sock, and that's what I ended up making for this girl's dad. She's like, "Do you have any merch?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I went and grabbed one of my dad's crusty old socks, and he has fucking rank feet, so it was crusty, and filled it with, I think it was like dried rice, and drew this froggy character on it, and I sold it to her for $20. And that's when the principal stepped in, and yeah, I remember they called my parents and they brought him in, had to talk to him, and they're like, "Listen, we can't be having kids selling stuff like that, like he didn't like the
What were
hustle,
they
I guess."
about, dude?
Just like, it was such like potty humor. Like, there was, the Dumb Force was like all these stupid characters, not superheroes or anything like that. Like, one of them was like, I honestly remembering, it was like one took a bunch of farts, and that was like his like thing, and it was all just like really gross potty humor stuff.
And in the fifth
But
grade, you were hustling people and selling your merch for the first time ever. That's funny, dude.
yeah.
But so after that, it just so when it comes to drawing, do you have to practice to get good at it, right? There's obviously like different techniques and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I really kind of over the years just forced myself to draw something every day, and over time, just that routine and doing that all the time, your hand learns to do all these movements. Like, I picked up a lot of technique from just watching stuff and drawing it, not tracing, but like looking at something, drawing it down, a cartoon. It wasn't, not a lot of like nature stuff, I never drew any animals or anything like that. It was always like superheroes, monsters. But yeah, just every day, really.
I had a friend of mine in high school who would do the craziest drawing. I like the type of drawings that look like what's the guy's name from Alien? HR, is it H.R. Geiger or H Geiger or something like that?
Yeah, Geiger,
Yeah,
however you pronounce it.
H I
HR Geiger.
And
Yeah.
like that neo, almost like a horror like aesthetic to it. I've always liked those type of drawings, and this kid could draw. He did a couple of things for me. He could draw so good, and I was always jealous about people. Cause, dude, growing up, to be honest with you, man, I was never really good at anything. Now that I think of it, I was having a conversation yesterday with my friend Chris, and with the whole podcasting scene and all this stuff. And the reason I started podcasting was because I forgot why the fuck I started podcasting, but I guess like I needed an outlet or something like that to be able. Cause I'm the kind of guy that will hyper fixate on a hobby and like go all out on that hobby, and then like get bored and then go on to the next hobby and then get bored of that and just keep going. And the reason I started podcasting was to have like some sort of outlet where I could talk about things that I like. Because the issue that I was having is these esoteric subjects that I like to talk, like that I like to listen to. A lot of people don't talk about them, right? And I hate when you click on a podcast and it's supposed to be about XYZ, and then the fucking host just talk about something completely different than what's like on the title. So if I'm trying to do research on something, and let's say I look up Hollow Earth or some shit, and for 45 minutes of the 60-minute episode, the host and the other person is talking about something completely different. It's like, you wasted my time. Here I am trying to wait for like the information or whatever. Maybe because I like listening to different perspectives of ideas. Because maybe something that I don't know of the same topic, you might know something that I didn't. It was like these little nuggets of truth that you pick up on the way. So that's why I'll look at things from a different point of view or from a different person and the way that they present it. And I think that's one of the main reasons I started podcasting. I want to talk about what I liked. I want to talk about, things that interest me, and have people on that that are interesting to me, and learn from them about. Dude, I've had fucking doctors on here. I've had evangelists on, ex-evangelists on. I've had all types of people, visionary artists. I know Lawrence Cardano, which was on the podcast probably about 2 years ago now. He's a visionary artist. And that's another crazy thing, because H.R. Geiger was a visionary artist, where they go into this trance-like state to be able to paint their visions or their dreams or whatever it may be. And
almost like automatic writing. Yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
I never heard of that. What's that? Like where people just
automatic writing,
channel something?
Yeah. Well, basically you're like just shutting off your brain and letting whatever you're channeling or whatever meditative state, whatever's coming in from the universe or whatever. Like you were talking about with Tom, Manly P. Hall.
Oh, dude.
He told me to start the book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And I just started it on Audible the other day. And
exactly what I was reading today. And I was literally just talking to Thomas about it like a few minutes ago.
Dude, that was a great recommendation. He gave me some other ones I want to check out, because I've been into fiction. Like growing up, I was really into like J.R. Tolkien, Terry Brooks, R.A. Salvatore, like I don't know what they consider that, like high fantasy or fantasy in general, but
like Dungeons and Dragons, bro. I'm like, I love Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
I just fucking have nobody to play with, but it's like I like opening the books and looking at the art and just looking at the lore and goblins bro, I remember when I was
Yeah.
growing up, I was obsessed with dragons for like the longest fucking time. Like dragons were the
Yeah.
shit to me, and I was like, man, this is crazy, dude. This is wild. And I mean,
You're you're
a
you're
lot of
like
people,
ice dragon.
yeah, a lot of people think that. I mean, maybe dragons might have been real at one point. Who the fuck knows? Because just like with every legend or folklore or whatever, I think there's a like a mustard seed of truth in there. So the whole idea of the boogeyman and these things that we use to scare kids, right? You got kids? So,
Yeah.
so,
Yep. I got a 5-year-old and another one coming.
oh yeah, me too, bro. Congrats. I got another,
Nice, man. Congrats to you.
I got another boy coming in May. So
Oh, so you got a boy and you're gonna have another boy.
yeah, I have a 3.5-year-old, almost 4 years old. He's a little motherfucker, and then I got another boy coming. So
That's cool. Hey, same here, but just girls.
you got 2 girls,
Yep.
bro.
Yeah, this new one's gonna be a girl. She's gonna be, I think her due date's in March sometime.
R.I.P. Bro.
Yeah.
I did not want to have a girl. Like I don't want to deal with that shit just because you gotta like, cause men are pigs, dude. Like men are
Oh
bad.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm a
Hmm.
guy, so like I know what goes in our minds and all this shit. And I just didn't want to have to deal with all that. But yeah, so these legends that we tell our kids to be able to scare them to go to sleep or whatever. Fear is passed down through genetics. That's been scientifically proven. If you flash different shapes above the head of a of a chicken, they don't freak out. Or you can do a square, circle, triangle, whatever it may be. But as soon as you flash the silhouette of a fucking eagle above the head of a chicken, they freak the fuck out. Why? Because through all its genetics and through all its whole lineage, since it was that whole gene pool, that fear of, hey, run when you see this shape in the sky, that's been passed down, even if they've never encountered an eagle. The same thing goes with humans. I think the whole skinwalker, maybe not the chupacabra, but skinwalker, wendigo, boogeyman, all these folklore legends and they have a bunch of different names, right, all throughout history,
Right.
especially the Native American and indigenous people. They have a bunch of different versions. When it comes to that, I think that's a real thing as far as the skinwalker, especially because there's a thing. Have you ever heard of haplogene X?
No.
So haplogene X is this gene group, right? And dude, it goes deep, like as far as like to the ancient Mesopotamians, and all this shit way, 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 way back, almost like an ancient bloodline, right? And they say that these people that have this gene group, and it's mostly Native Americans and people of indigenous cultures, they're more susceptible to certain things. So spiritually, interdimensionally, whatever it may be. And my
Right.
theory has always been that these ancient civilizations that have quote unquote disappeared, right? Because the ancient Egyptians, like, what happened to them? Oh, they got taken over by the Hyksos people. It's like, who the fuck are the Hyksos? Oh, just a nomadic tribe. Wait, so you're telling me one of the most advanced civilizations ever got taken over by some fucking randoms out of
Yeah.
nowhere, and then boom, here we are, the Romans and the Greeks or this and that. There's like inconsistencies. So my theory is that these people as a whole, through genetics or whatever it may be, they were able to achieve some sort of enlightenment or attunement to a certain frequency and just piece the fuck out. That's why we don't know what happened to the Mayans. They just
Yeah.
left. You know what I mean? They just got up and left. So I think that they were maybe at a certain, because we don't know what the pyramids were built for, bro. Like we still don't know
Right. No.
till this fucking day. And they tell us in school, oh, they're tombs for the pharaohs and all this. And I go, no, dude. I think it was maybe some sort of energy thing, right? We have all these ducts and you have the water running underneath it. Maybe it was an
Yeah.
ancient power plant, or maybe it was when they got in the king's chamber, that box. I've had friends of mine lay in that box, and they say that people
Wow.
start chanting, and the vibration is so intense within that box and within those walls that they have to get out. So maybe at a certain time of the year, they're able to tap into this sort of frequency through the constellations, et cetera, et cetera. That's what the pagans were all about. They were about worshiping the celestial bodies. So they knew their shit.
Right.
And maybe maybe so they were able to achieve something where they were just able to peace out and just teleport to some other dimension. But we're never gonna fucking know. But the whole thing
Nah.
about the ancient Egyptians was that they were obsessed with the afterlife. So what did they
Oh, yeah.
know that we don't? You know what I mean?
Well, have you ever heard that like or read anything about the Egyptians actually never they never built any of that. They
Yeah.
stumbled upon it and like built upon that. So then that's like, okay, well, what ancient civilizations build it? What what level were they on? Parallel dimensions did they know about and could access? I mean, that's when I think about the Indians, what you're saying about,
There's stargates everywhere over there,
attuning.
bro.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I mean, that's when we went into Iraq. I mean, you've heard that
The ziggurat
about
of
them,
year,
like,
yeah.
yeah, as soon as they got in there, going right to the museums, right to the ancient artifacts,
That's
fuck
the
oil,
weapons of mass destruction, dude. The weapons of mass
Yeah,
destruction, because supposedly Saddam Hussein, he believed that he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar is
yeah,
obviously
yep,
that king that had the visions in the Bible. And according to him, he was gathering artifacts, and supposedly he could, well, this is what I tell people. And I know you mentioned the Matrix movie, right? Where
hmm
they put all this symbolism. And as Manly P. Hall says, symbolisms are the language to the soul. And because they everything is symbolic, right? No matter how you put it, everything is symbolic. Numbers mean things. Mathematics is the language of the universe. How Pythagoras was talking about. And I think that all these movies that they put out and all this fucking media that they put out, it's neurolinguistic programming. So the show Stargate Atlantis, it's about a fucking Stargate, which we know that the government was participating in tests with Stargates and parallel
right,
dimensions. And I was reading about the project. It's called, I have to look it up again. But anyways, it's a project where they're able to attune I think it's hemispheric synchronization or something like that, where they're able to attune both sides of the brain to the same frequency. And people are just able to like look into other dimensions and supposedly there were reports that they saw reptilians, that there was a group of people that participated in the same experiment and they all saw the same shit. So like when two people try DMT and they both see the same entities, that sort of thing. So it's like we know the government is testing and doing shit on this.
right,
So it's like, is it real? And I've always said this, bro, because right, conspiracy theorist was a term dubbed by the CIA. Now, if something's not
right. Yeah, after
true,
after JFK.
yeah,
Yep,
after JFK, if
yep,
something's not true, why do you give it credibility? Why do you even
right, yeah,
bother with it? So you have these
right.
people, the reptilian elites or whoever the fuck they may be, the archons, whoever, doing things in the background, messing around with things that they're classified or whatever that we're never going to know about, but yet they're fucking around with it. It's like the dark arts woo woo type of stuff. Like it gets intense, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's like that whole men who stare at goats, like you're
Yeah.
saying, for all this stuff that they laugh at and put their noses up at, and oh, it's fiction, oh, these fucking people are crazy. Okay, well, if that's your sentiment, if that's what you believe, like you said, why are you spending millions of fucking black ops money to do all these projects involved with that stuff? If you don't believe in psychic abilities, why are you spending so much money and having these black op operations towards that? Yeah, you're right.
Another one of my favorite theories is the whole. Do you know about all the underground cities in the world?
Not all of them, but no, I mean, I have looked into that. Yeah.
So there's a ton, and the more known one is called Derinkuyu in Turkey, and it's a underground city that stretches for, I forget how many miles, but it's got like I don't know how many layers, dude. It's a huge underground city. It's a huge network, and they said that they were built during the Byzantine era when they were trying to take over and all this shit. But I go, that took way longer than what they're saying, and they always come up with this narrative to try and justify these crazy feats that I believe the whole thing with and you mentioned the pyramids earlier about how the dynastic Egyptians didn't build them.
Right.
I think it was a little bit of both. I think the dynastic Egyptians contributed to a lot of them. How I think that, yeah, maybe some of the stuff they did find. And there's always like this missing link. And that's when you get into the woo-woo stuff of Atlantis, Tartaria, all these different things of how, yeah, the Egyptians came by. They were like, hey, and the one that I always point to, the reason that people say that they just took over is I think the name is the Tombs of Saqqara, where have you seen the boxes, the big boxes underground? So again,
No.
it's this extensive network. And the reason that when you see pictures of the pyramids, the reason that you see the pyramids by themselves and nothing around them is because the vast network of catacombs and tunnels underneath the entire outside of the pyramids, if they were to build anything on there, it would collapse because there's so many miles and miles and miles of tunnels around the Giza plateau, and they all connect. A lot of people say that's, the entrance to Hollow Earth. And I like to think about the missing 411, that a lot of these people, they go missing on these concentrated entrances to underground networks. So is something taking them underground? You know what I mean? Like some fucking reptilians or something that are... I also heard the other day about this advanced race of dinosaur that when the meteor hit, they went underground. And those are the Hollow Earth. And then you have this article that came out the other day of wind from the Hollow Earth escaping through this opening in the under Panama or some shit. It's like, wait a minute. The guy from Halley's Comet, bro, Edmund Halley, he talked about concave Earth. And mind you, just how Galileo talked about the Earth revolving around the sun and he was ruled a heretic, all these guys are labeled pseudoscientists. But back in early 2020, we were talking about vaccine passports, and then boom. You know what I mean? So it's like, eventually you get to that point to where it's like, wait, is it really conspiracy or is it just occult knowledge or, something hidden? Because, dude, a couple weeks ago, NASA hired 27 theologians to study how people would react to the reveal of aliens. What the fuck is all that about?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then that harkens to Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
And that whole thing. So yeah, no. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's the whole thing, it's conspiracy theorists. Yes, it was a term after JFK to thwart all of those people that came out even questioning it. But like you've said, I mean, as time goes on, we're proven right, not wrong. I think Sam Tripoli, my man Sam, he always has said, conspiracy theorists just keep score, right? we don't forget,
Yeah, no, we don't. And the same thing goes, I'm trying to find this quote. So I believe it was by Terrence McKenna. To jump into our next topic, so when the ancients, right, they participated in the use of these entheogens and psychedelics and these drugs, and I think that contributes to this idea that these drugs or whatever, you're able to use them to break out of the matrix, right? That's why in the Matrix it's either a red pill or a blue pill. It's like, which are you going to take? And the quote is, psychedelics are illegal not because the loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window, but because they dissolve opinion structure and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing, which opens up the possibility that everything you know is wrong. Remember, it's harder to control people that are open-minded, who are able to think for themselves. And as you saw in the Matrix, the new one, at the very end, when Neil
Right.
Patrick Harris's forehead was talking about how people will always want to be governed regardless of the fact. And I think that, dude, and I
Right.
think that has to do again with what I talked about earlier, this genetic pass down of traits that all throughout history, there's always been kings, there's always been a hierarchy, and hierarchy really plays with people's psyche, like the whole prison experiment, where the guards
Yeah.
become the prisoners and the prisoners become the guards, and what ends up happening, some fucked up shit ends up happening because of that position in society or the hierarchy, right? I'm better than you. And dude, I was talking to my friend this week and I said, he's working, I'm working, right? We're just on the phone, just bullshitting. And I go, bro, this is all bullshit, man. I was like, we work for what? We work for pieces of paper. And I trade my pieces of paper to you for a service or something else or a commodity, whatever it is. What if we all came together and said, you know what? Fuck the system. We don't need this shit.
I've thought about that before. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, because I think as
Uh-huh.
as a collective consciousness, I think the reptilians, they need us. Not I think, I know that they need us in this lower vibrational frequency because they feed off of that shit. They feed
Right,
off
the
of it.
sun moon matrix.
Yeah, exactly. They feed off of it. And I talk about the Saturn time cube simulation hypothesis that had Nick Hinton on. I might have him on next month again for our 2-year anniversary.
I like Nick. Yeah, Nick Hinton's cool. Yeah, you've had a lot of good guests on your podcast, man.
I mean, I've had you on, so that's a good guest. So
yeah, we'll see, Juan.
So he talked about this, right? Which is not a new idea. It's been around for a while. This whole Saturnalia, Saturn worship, which can be translated to Kronos, the devil, et cetera, et cetera. But have you ever heard the sounds coming from Saturn?
I no, I can't recall remembering hearing them, but I know what you're talking about.
So every celestial body, everything in the world, how Pythagoras said, has a frequency, right? Everything you're able to, if I'm able to match up the atoms in my hand with the atoms in my desk, if I'm able to match up both frequencies, I'm able to put my hand through the table.
Yeah,
Now,
I've heard that.
How the fuck do you do that? We don't know. Maybe this is where all this woo-woo stuff. I believe in magic, man. I believe in that shit. I believe that.
Oh yeah, right on.
I believe that we were, as a people, suppressed. Language was suppressed. The original alphabet was only 17 or 19 letters, and they added letters and these symbols, because that's what they are, for no fucking apparent reason, right? If you look at Welsh mythology, bro, how fucking epic it is with the dragons and magic and all this shit.
Yeah.
I think that people have been suppressed in order, because they know our true potential, type of thing. The whole humanism movement has been suppressed to what? To be, in order to achieve divinity, and anybody who says otherwise is ruled a heretic, you have to go through us. And us is the powers that be, whether that's the government, whether that's the church, whether that's whoever. But mind you, history is the fucking guy who won, bro. You know what I mean? Like we're living off of the guys who fucking won. In 1776, if they would have been like, well, imagine 1776, they would have been like, all right, let's go ahead and just pay our taxes and just keep being ruled by the crown. Imagine how much of a different reality we would have been in if that wasn't the
fuck tea. We don't need tea.
Exactly.
We're good.
You know what I mean? Like it's like
it's
like our founding fathers, which they were probably pieces of shit. They were probably racist as fuck. You know what I mean? That's just that's just the reality of things. You know what I mean? Which blows my mind, because I don't know why we need to involve race into anything. I have friends of all ethnicities and colors and whatever. They're just people.
To me, it's all just tools of separation. You know, if like you were saying, if we all come together and all, stop watching television. I know we're using technology right now and it has its benefits, but at the end of the day, social media is toxic. It's toxic, man. Yeah. I mean, I haven't had a Facebook account in like a decade now. I fuck with Instagram. I mean, that's been good to me and get my art out there. But even that, it's like, what are you really seeing? People can project whatever life they want to on these scrying mirrors, right?
Yeah.
And make everybody believe what they want them to believe. It's not real. You know, and yeah, no, they're all tools of separation. You talk about, I mean, that's funny. We bring this up because that Manly P. Hall book. I mean, this is stuff I already had researched and learned, but he brings it up. These ancient mystery schools at the beginning of time. You look at the beginning of anything. I mean, even the Masons, they all start out as these honest to goodness, like pure things, right? But just like any movement, right? Any movement, the evil sorcerers, right? They don't want that, so they, I don't know, work their way in, corrupt it, and then over time, it's like, okay, well, whatever those good lessons, whatever magic they were trying to impart in the world to us, to the future, it just gets taken over, controlled, suppressed, and it's like you said, his story. They won. They write the books.
It makes me think about how you're saying like one bad apple spoils the rest. Maybe the Knights
Yeah.
Templar, they did have good intentions, and then somebody infiltrated them and they started worshiping Baphomet and doing all this fucked up shit. But but I yeah, I get exactly what you mean, and it goes back to that same thing that they need us trapped in this lower vibrational energy because they harvest that energy, and they, what I mentioned earlier about Saturn, if you listen to the sounds coming from Saturn, the whole thing is the Saturn time cube is that the demiurge is actually Saturn, and he's controlling this false reality through the use of cymatics or the use of frequencies to be able to suppress human consciousness and keep us trapped in this Ouroboros. So when you die, they say that your consciousness travels somewhere else. And the Gnostics talked about gnosis. When you achieve gnosis and you're able, and gnosis is sacred knowledge, and they use the term gnosis for chaos magic too, but in the Gnostic term, it's sacred knowledge. It's knowledge that finds you. It's whatever your truth is to you, right? Whatever it means to you, that's what it is. And through the use of gnosis, you're able to break through and ascend to the upper eons, right? So right now we're in the lower eons, which is the material world. The upper eons is heaven, hell, whatever you want to call it. But according to the Gnostics, we are in hell. And that's why you see this perversion. And Pythagoras, dude, I always tell people, I don't know how we got lost in translation, because Pythagoras said, don't sacrifice, don't commit suicide. But he also said, if man is able to destroy even just one grain of sand or whatever it may be, he will ultimately destroy himself. And I think we've been way fucking past that for a very long time now. And that plays again into the whole simulation argument that a civilization will end itself before it achieves full technological maturity. So we will, like Oppenheimer, when he made the atomic bomb, and he quotes the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu, when he says, I have become the destroyer of worlds. And that, dude, that's fucking just sends chills down my spine, because I'm like, this dude knew how he fucked up. He said, I've created something so destructive and so evil. And he quotes some fucking ancient Hindu text of this god that just was about to go on some crazy slaughter of his brother's army or some shit like that. And he becomes his multi-armed form. And that's why I did the Vishvarupa Bigfoot, because it's just like,
oh man, that's a dope picture, man.
So because again, inspired by that, I have become the destroyer of worlds, and it's like this destructive nature of humanity that just comes out. But back to the whole psychedelic movement thing. I know you wanted to talk about that, and we can talk about dreams, and you had some. I love hearing people's psychedelic experiences. I've only had mushrooms one time and haven't tried it
Same here.
since. And I've been thinking about it, but ever since my experience, I've come to have that much more respect for the sacred plant medicine, and I think that it shouldn't be used lightly, because when we take these plants and these things like the mushroom is a sacred thing that holds, like in a 1 by 1 inch cut of dirt, there's like I don't know how many miles of mycelium, and it's like this thing that has always been there since the beginning of time. And when you tap in, I believe that when you take this, like the Eucharist, right, where you taking in, and it's funny because a lot of people thought that Jesus was a mushroom, right? There's that conspiracy that
I've heard that.
that Christianity is a mushroom cult. But when you take this substance, I believe that you teleport to another dimension, and they show you things. They show you different aspects of your psyche. And that's what ended up happening to me, where
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. Tell me about your trip. I'll tell you about mine.
like I grew my own, right? Because I'm the type of guy that I'm going to be, if I'm going to be doing some questionable shit, and by like questionable, like, I vape, whatever, it's bad for you. But if I'm going to vape, I'm going to go ahead and, get a good quality vape from a quality company, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you limit the factors. It's still fucking bad for you. That's the whole point. So when I wanted to do and have my first psychedelic experience, I said, I'm going to grow my own. My mycology is fucking dope. Growing mushrooms and learning about the anatomy of a mushroom, knowing when it's ready to pick, knowing how to control the environment for it. So for 3 months, I was nurturing these mushrooms from the very time that I got them in a syringe, right, to the time that they fruited, and I was able to pick them. And then you have to dry them. So it's a whole process. It's alchemy, it's a whole fucking process.
Yeah.
So I took the whole process in, and then when I was ready to take them, I there was like this doubt in my mind where it was like, this shit's not gonna work. I was like, there's no fucking way like I did this shit. There's no fucking way. This is fake.
Yeah.
So I was playing World of Warcraft with some friends of mine, and
Nice.
I took 3 grams, and I had a friend who, I don't want to say too much, but he would partake in activities in the dark web, selling certain types of substances. And he told me, he said, because I told him I was going to do 3.5 grams. He's like, nah, dude, 3.5's a lot. Try 2.5. I was like, all right. I have this other friend of mine who works at a psilocybin retreat in Jamaica, treating people with PTSD and trauma and all this stuff with psilocybin. He said, nah, dude, you can take 4, 3.5, whatever. I was like, This other dude said 2.5. This other guy said 3.5. Let's just meet in the middle. Let's just do 3. So I took the 3. And mind you, it's like I have this connection with the mushrooms that it's like you nurture it and you bring it up, and it's like this relationship that I formed with them. It's a weird thing. And
it's like a child.
Yeah, it's like a child, exactly. And I took them, and and I was coming up. I didn't really think that they were going to do anything. To be honest, I didn't think that anything was going to happen. I took them, and then I remember I was coming up, and I was feeling just fucking amazing. Right? I was feeling great. I was having a great time with my friends, and I remember being overwhelmed at one point because I was playing World of Warcraft, and I remember feeling overwhelmed because of the visuals. Right? I started coming up in that first peak, and I had to turn it off, and I had headphones in, and I was talking to my friends, and I had to turn it off because it was just like a sensory overload type of thing. You know what I mean? And so I turn it off, and I'm still on the phone with my friends, and they're all laughing at me like, oh, you're fucking tripping your balls off, whatever. My headphones felt like they were morphed into my head, bro. They felt like they were like, my headphones felt like they were in my head. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, damn, this is crazy. My room was breathing. Mind you, I'm by myself. It's like fucking
the breathing,
12 o'clock at night. I'm like, fuck. It was at the peak of COVID, dude. At the very peak of COVID. So I remember turning off my computer after trying to watch various things. I tried watching this documentary on Mars. Fucking bad idea. I tried watching Joe Rogan. And that's when I saw Joe Rogan. I remember Joe Rogan with like black eyes, dude. He had black eyes. And then he had Brian Callahan with him on there. And I remember Brian's face morphing into like what I can think of it now. Like he looked like Baphomet. You know what I mean? Like he looked like the fucking the like a weird fucking face. He had like 6 eyes. Like it was fucking crazy. And as soon as I saw that, I turned it off and I go, oh shit. I turned it off. And then I start having the auditory hallucinations, if you will, where my friends would talk to me. And mind you, I feel the headphones in my fucking skull. And my friends are talking to me, and I feel like it was like my subconscious talking to me. Because what I was answering my friends things that they weren't saying at the time. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? They're like, wait, what? And I was like, dude, what do you mean? And they're like, dude, are you, like, what the fuck's up with you? You know what I mean? I was just answering them, and it was like, I remember it being like, oh, I remember the one thing was like, oh, you fucking done it now. Like, I remember that. I was like, oh shit. I was like, what have I done? They're like, yeah, you done fucked up. And I was like, what? This is the craziest fucking shit ever. So then I decided to get off the phone because I was like, hey guys, I'm just gonna just lay down and fucking try and chill, whatever. And it was at the peak of COVID, and I remember I said, because as soon as I turned off the computer, I felt this sense of dread, like I was gonna die. I was like dying, and I said to myself, I said, if I freak the fuck out, and I end up going to the hospital, I'm gonna get COVID, and I'm gonna fucking die. So I was like, you better suck it up, right? You better overcome whatever fucking feelings that you got going on, to avoid going to the hospital, avoid calling somebody. You imagine calling somebody at 12 o'clock at night, 1 a.m, be like, yo, tripping my fucking balls off. I don't know what to do. I really need help right now. And so I just lay down on my couch, and I tried watching The Office. Bad fucking idea. Bad idea, bro. You know when there's a conversation without context and like people are going back and forth? Like, have you ever seen those funny videos of like on YouTube with like Joe Rogan, like with zero context, and they make it seem like he's like a rapist or some shit? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yep.
Everything felt like that. Like The Office, you know how they jump around a lot from character to character? It was just like, oh. And then the only thing that I could bear to watch was this documentary called, I believe it's called Our World or Our Earth or some shit. It was on Netflix. And then Netflix used to, you know how Netflix, when you go over the titles, it auto plays.
Yeah.
You know, it like starts the audio. I remember scrolling.
Yeah, like play like a
like a little snippet. I remember scrolling through Netflix, and everything was screaming at me, bro. Like I would like hover over one thing. It was like just like blasting, and then I try to get out of there and just like sit down and I was able to put on this documentary about nature and about animals. And this documentary goes through different parts of the world, like the frozen tundra, the rainforests, the oceans. And I remember sitting there, bro, and watching these animals interact, etc. But the way it starts, it's all happy. Here's a little baby seal. Here's the baby seal. And then the sinister music would come up, and then here's a fucking polar bear eating the baby seal's fucking head. Right? So it's like, oh, how beautiful. Oh my fucking God, this baby seal just got its, and then the bear just picks it up by its head and just drags it off. And the one thing in particular, bro, and I like I went out to like my fish tank and I was looking at my fish and I was like talking to my fish. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I was like, I'm watching this baby seal get eaten and I'm like, fucking, I'm crying, bro. I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy, bro. This is wild. Like it's just a baby seal. And then the one thing that really fucked it up for me was the elephant seals. And there's these 2-ton animals that they're fucking huge, bro. And there's hundreds of thousands of. I remember saying, why is there so many? Because it was just like, I don't know if I was tripping, and you know how you see like patterns like over and over again. I was like, why is there so many fucking seals? And they get on these islands, and because of global warming, the ice is melting. So these seals are, mind you, a 2-ton animal. They climb higher and higher on these rock cliffs, right? They climb higher and higher. Mm-hmm. And they get up to crazy heights to where they're all on top of each other and they start pushing each other off. And they show all this shit, bro. They show an elephant seal tumbling to its death. And I remember crying, looking at these fucking helpless seals. And I remember saying, we are a fucking cancer to this fucking world that we're in. Everything we take and everything we do, we're fucking viruses. I think it was Stephen Hawking that said that yeah, humans have made copies of what they're actually like. That's why we invented a virus, because we're fucking just cysts on the face of this earth that just destroy everything. And how Pythagoras said, if you destroy one grain of salt, you ultimately destroy yourselves. Then you have Oppenheimer. Agent Smith, exactly. Agent Smith.
Yeah, his talk, yeah.
So I remember just fucking crying my eyes out, and the whole entire time, bro, I was like hesitant, and I wouldn't let the experience flow through. I would just like be like, I remember talking. I'm like, hey, I just want to fucking go home, right? I just want to I want this shit to stop. Like I want this to end. And, you know, it comes in waves, so I'm, like, fucking peeking my balls off. Like, oh, here comes another wave. Like, oh, shit. And then I'm back again. I'm like, please just make it stop. And the entire time, bro, the mushrooms were just like, nah, bro. You're here. You're here now. We're going to show you what this shit is about, right? You wanted to fucking do this, so we're going to fucking drag you through the mud. We're going to fucking show you what's up, dude. And I just remember, they were like, you know, they told me, dude, they were like, you know, if you don't change your ways, you know, like, pay attention to your family. Fucking play with your son a little bit more. Fucking hug your wife a little bit more. And it changed my fucking life. You know what I mean? Like, ever since that night, I told you, it's like this sense of appreciation that you have after that, because it's these little sages with probably they say that mushrooms are aliens, bro. Their spores live in the vacuum of space. There was some sort of mushroom that grew on the fucking window of the space station. Right, they had some type of mushroom going on. So it's like these things are from either another world or another dimension, to where they're able to show you things, and they've been here way longer than you have. The shamans that do ayahuasca in the rainforest, they all know different Icaros, which they're like songs, and every single shaman has a different Icaros. And the shamans, when you ask them how they knew that certain Icaros, they're like, the plants taught me. Can you imagine, bro, in the rainforest, there's hundreds of thousands of plants and hundreds of thousands of species of different tree barks. And in order to make ayahuasca, they knew to take this fucking plant and this other one, mix it together, so you're able to trip your fucking balls off and go into another dimension and just have like this reawakening, like you're born again, like the true baptism, right? Not just some fucking bullshit where they dip you in water and come back out. That's symbolic. That's symbolic of being born again. No, I'm talking about the real fucking deal, doing DMT or psychedelics. And that's why, for the ancient Egyptians, the shamans were always regarded as these higher ups. And there was only certain people who were able to partake in certain ceremonies and do things, because, again, it's a medicine. And I think that when people do them, you know, to go to fucking raves and do all this shit, I think they're just doing the plant medicine some sort of dishonor, right? Because it's not meant for that type of shit.
Yeah, they're doing it wrong.
You know what I mean? So I haven't tried it since, again. you know, I do smoke a lot of weed, but that's a little bit different. And
Right.
I think that when you get into the state altering psychedelics, it gets heavy. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's wild you talk about death in your trip. Now, me, it was I was 18. Um, it wasn't it wasn't anything. I had no knowledge of, you know, treating these plants with respect, going in with an intention or anything like that. I was just some young fucking party kid, you know, that we it was in the wintertime and it was over winter break. I was 18 and we were looking just to get just a bag of weed, you know, and have a day like that. But my buddy had mentioned that I was with. He's like, "Well, this guy he has mushrooms, man," and I always wanted to do mushrooms, you know. So I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do mushrooms," you know. And so we end up getting the mushrooms. We each get an eight. Um, and we stopped at some convenience store because, you know, in our heads we're like, oh well, we've heard orange juice intensifies it, you know, vitamin C. So we
What?
stop,
Really?
get yeah, you ever hear that?
No.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, we weren't scientists. I mean, we had just heard that, so we're like, oh man, we want this trip to be crazy, you know. And so we're like, okay, well, we'll get that. And we ended up going to a cemetery by my house
Oh,
and
fuck.
parking, right? Snowing everywhere. Like it had just started snowing. And we ate the whole eight and I ended up we we were supposed to get a bag, get an eighth of weed for some friends of ours, and we take these shrooms and we're like, okay, we're gonna stop by our friend's house, we're gonna get this sorted out, and then we're gonna go home, and by then, like, we'll be good, you know, we'll be safe when we really start peaking. And we get to this guy's house, and it was just, I remember my buddy's girlfriend calling him on the phone, and I remember both of us just going, "Don't fucking pick up the phone." And as soon as he picked up that phone, that's when the giggles started, you know.
Yeah.
We're just laughing, and she's like, his name's Jesse. He's like, "Jesse, what the hell?" Blah blah blah. And we just hang up, just laughing. I mean, we couldn't even function. You know, my buddies were like, "Dude, like, we really need this weed. Like, what is going on?" And we're like, "Listen, we can't do any of this. We're getting in the car and going back to my house, you know." And it's snowing, right? And we finally pile into my car, me and my buddy, and we're going down the road. And I remember as we were going down the road, like it's Star Wars, right? You know how like when you're in the car and it's snowing, how it kind of looks like warp speed, right?
I mean, I've never driven in the snow to be quite honest with you, but I've seen it on movies. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just like Star Wars. Like you get that in general without hallucinating. But as we're going down the road, I mean, the snow, I mean, it just, as a car would pass, the whole road would like breathe. It would like open up.
You guys are driving on mushrooms
Oh yeah. And dude, we only had like a mile to go, but it felt like it took forever
because
to
it
get
changes time,
back to my
bro.
house.
It changes the perception of
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. But long story short, we get back to my house, get inside, uh, get to my bedroom, we throw a movie on, you know, where the bed's breathing, the whole room's just breathing like you were talking about. The patterns on just whatever are like dislodging themselves from whatever object, and they're just starting to like roll like smoke over things, you know. And I don't know who had the bright idea. I think I'm the one with the phone. I was just feeling good, and I was like, you know what? Let's call fucking everyone we know and get them here, right? Bad idea, Shayne. You know, like, so, and I went to take a shit because I was like addicted in that beginning to like taking shits. I think I was I think I took like three shits in the beginning because you know how it like fucks your guts up.
Dude,
But I'm just
it's
like,
funny you mentioned that
what?
because I couldn't stop pissing. As soon as I would take a sip of water, like a little sip, I'd have to fucking go take a piss, bro. And so I'm like passing in front of the mirror in my bathroom. I'm like looking at myself, fucking
Oh.
like morph into like this. I was like, no. And then I'd take a piss, and then the lights are changing. You know, like the lights change colors and shit. I'm like, fuck.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I couldn't stop pissing, dude. Good thing I didn't have to shit.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but like I would like push really hard and like the visuals would get like so much crazier as I'm pushing a turd out my ass, you know? And but anyhow, so I go in the bathroom after calling my friends, and they're like, "Oh my God, Shayne and Jesse are tripping. We gotta go over there and see this, you know." And they ended up coming over, and I forgot that I had even invited them. But I mean, it felt like you said, like time started to disintegrate. You know, at the peak of my trip is when I decided, like, my parents had left for the evening. So like it was free reign over the house. We had the friends there. I think they were in the living room, and I decided to take a shower. Wrong fucking move. Okay. And by this point, my buddy who I had started, had been tripping with, he's gone. I don't know where he's at. He ended up getting in his, because he was my neighbor that lived across the field. So he got in his car and tried going down the road. Long story short, he got stuck between these two pine trees that aren't that fucking close together in my yard. And his girlfriend had to come get him, and he had a bad trip. But I remember getting in the shower, and it was like I had my brain reset. I got out of the shower thinking that it was in the morning, because that was my routine. I'd get up, take a shower, go out, get coffee, start the day. And I walked out butt naked. Okay. At this time, it was only a friend of mine, not the one I was tripping with, but another friend of mine was there. And we were really close at the time. And I remember going out butt naked. He's sitting at the table and he's like, dude, why are you fucking naked? And I was like, dude, you're my best friend. Like, that was an explanation. That was like an okay excuse to be butt naked. And I just start making coffee, and he's like freaking out, man. He does, like, I'm gone. And I ended up being naked the whole time. Okay. And it's winter, Juan. It is winter. There's ice. Like, yeah, there's fresh snow happening, when we were tripping, but there's like crusty ice outside. And I remember I was like, at one point, I was like, okay, time does not exist. Time is not real. Time is an illusion. And I wanted to break free from time. So I thought in my head, at this point, I'm like, I'm fucking dead. Like, I'm dead. This is like the in between, like a purgatory or something. And if I just realize that I'm dead and prove to myself that I'm dead, I can break on through, like Jim Morrison says, to the other side. So I fucking, my buddy, in the meanwhile, my buddy had called two of our other friends, our friend Chris and his girlfriend at the time had come over. They're outside, like talking, getting ready to come into the madness that I'm in the fucking house. And I just barrel out of the back door naked, butt naked in the snow. I thought at that moment, I thought as I was cresting up over the hill, I had my arms wide like this, and I was like, I just have to pick. I thought I was gonna like break into like a field of like, in Gladiator, of like sun and wheat fields with like
It was
this
nighttime.
yeah, it was nighttime, and I fucking run up over this hill, and meanwhile they're like, oh my God. I I get to the top of the hill, sit down in the ice, slide bare ass down the fucking hill, and I had scratches and shit, cuts all over my ass, but I didn't even feel it. I went down the hill, ran out in front of my house, which I lit at the time. My parents lived in front of a major highway, so there's fucking cars going by. I'm just butt naked running out in front of the house. I finally get back in the house, okay? And I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. So then I started grabbing everything that I wanted to bring to the afterlife, pictures of my mom and dad, uh, food. I grabbed my bong at one point, full bong, okay, just dirty ass bong
Did
water,
you?
and I'm
But you felt
standing.
like you felt like dread. You felt like anxiety, right? Like the entire
Oh,
time.
I mean, it was like, yeah, I mean, it was almost like a dread, like I need to move on. I need to get to the other side because if I don't, I'm going to be trapped in this purgatory where time doesn't exist and I have to keep reliving these moments, with these, I thought my friends were just figments of my imagination. But at one point, I'd say at the like peak before I started coming down, my dad had a wood stove and they were all sitting out there and I remembered opening up the wood stove. All right. There's just cherry coals in there, and I remember just giving my friend a glance and he was like, what the fuck is Shane gonna do? And I had to do this one to prove to them that I knew that this was an illusion. Like this is what I had to do to prove to them. And I stuck my hand right in, grabbed the hot coals, and I remember holding it, and I remember then feeling the fucking pain, and it was intense. And then they finally had got ice on my hand, put
Dude,
me in
the
bed.
fuck.
They're like cleaning up my room, and I remember just pulling the covers over my face. And I swear to God, I heard like I thought someone was pushing me on a gurney through a hospital. Like I heard the beeps of like, the life machines, like the ba-dup, ba-dup, ba-dup. And I heard nurses going like, he's fucking dead. He's not gonna make it, blah, 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 blah. And then I woke up and I remember like I had a cousin that passed away when I was young and it really affected me. And I remember coming to and I thought this was my cousin. It ended up being a friend of mine that was actually sitting beside the bed, but you couldn't have convinced me that it was. I mean, it was my cousin that had passed away. And I remember just like talking to him and like saying like, this is it. Like I'm dead, man. And he was just like consoling me and he just kept reassuring me like, just go to sleep, just go to sleep. And it just stopped just like that. I closed my eyes and opened them. I don't know how long I had slept or whatever that period of time was, but it was just like it was over. So that I mean that was my trip, and after that, I mean it changed me too. I mean I was always a very outgoing person. Very what do they call that? Extrovert. I mean I was a total extrovert, and after that I didn't go out much anymore. I had trouble interacting with others. It had affected me, like it just made me go inwards. And like talking about dreams, we had mentioned about maybe talking about some dreams, years later, on a camping trip with my wife now, I had one of these epic dreams, and one of those epic dream part of the epic dream at the end, I had climbed up on this ladder, and it was this old theater with like the old marquee, with the lights and everything. And it was like an overhang. And I remember climbing up this ladder, right? And mind you, this dream is just intense, all this really wild stuff. And I climb up this ladder towards the end, and there's all these black and white mushrooms, right? And all of a sudden, the dots on them start turning to these eyes, these black eyes, and they fucking all open up and they're saying to me, open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. And I snapped awake, and I don't know, I took that as a sign like you did all of that wrong, and whether you like it or not, this has now changed you. you know I don't know, it was intense, man.
Yeah, dude, that's pretty fucking wild, man. That's that's why I got such a deep respect for it all. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
haven't done it, and I've been wanting to, right? But it's like it's not the time and place to do it. And a lot of people go, "Oh, just go out in nature and do this and that." But it's like, you know, if I want to know what's wrong with me and if I want to like reflect deep down inside, you do mushrooms. You know what I mean? They're like
Yeah,
these little teachers of wisdom where
yeah,
they show you what is wrong with you. And there's been a lot of stories of people who take mushrooms and they find out they have not PTSD, schizophrenia, and it reveals to them like sicknesses and stuff that it just really makes it's I know it has a lot of like fun things to it, right? That you could think, oh, you have a good
right.
time, you feel good, but in actuality, it's fucking horrible if you really think about it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
people just take it and they do the hey, and you might be able to take it and go to a rave and have a great time. How you might be able to take and go to a rave and have the most horrible time you've ever had in your life. I know a guy who was like doing different. He was like popping LSD, doing mushrooms all at the same time, and he had like this crazy experience. And that's why a lot of these motherfuckers they faint at raves because they're loaded up on MDMA, LSD, mushrooms, also, psilocybin, all these things all in one time, and it's like your mind and your consciousness isn't supposed to be there, right? Because I do 100% think
right.
that it puts you in another dimension, and that's what the ancients knew about these sacred medicines, and that's why they held them to such a high standard. And
Yep.
maybe one of these days I'll do it again. I eventually want to try DMT, but to be honest, like I have zero motivation to try it again ever since my first experience. And
Have you ever heard of or smoked salvia? Do you remember when salvia was big?
yeah, I've heard of people who have tried it. I've never tried any other psychedelic other than psilocybin, and I've had friends of mine tell me stories that are fucking horrible. Like some
Yeah,
people living like entire lifetimes. Can you imagine just like knowing you're in some other place and never being able to escape? Or how many people take
yeah,
psychedelics and they don't ever come back, right? You hear those horror stories of people that just take and like how you said have a fucking mental breakdown, and because maybe they were destined to have that breakdown to know that there's something wrong with them. And the craziest thing about just human anatomy and human nature is that we're all just chemicals. Like every single process in the body involves one or other chemical. The dopamine, the happiness you feel. If you feel depressed, it's a lack of dopamine. And your gut, digestion is all chemicals, nutrients, everything. Vision is chemical. Your brain activity, it's all, how Morpheus says, just electrical signals in your brain. And it's the craziest fucking thing, dude, that there's a reason. I believe that there's a reason why these substances are available here on this realm, because if used correctly, they're able to heal people, right? Like marijuana, how
absolutely.
it does help people with certain things, with anxiety or pain or whatever it may be. But
Yeah,
when you start disrespecting the substances and start doing it for all the wrong reasons, that's when I think it gets into like this gray area, right? Because what is it?
right.
Oregon, I think, is that they decriminalize all drugs.
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah,
Yeah, like you
yep.
can fucking
That
have
wouldn't
mushrooms.
surprise me. Those yahoos
Oregon's
out in Seattle.
a shithole, right?
Uh-huh, yeah. No, I wouldn't want to go there.
Shout out to Chris, I
No,
think.
and oh, is that where he's at?
Yeah, I think he's in Portland or some shit.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like when you start disrespecting these substances, they turn on you because you're no longer, like you said, respecting them. You're no longer, it's wild you say about that. Ever since I was 14 years old, I was an avid smoker. I smoked every single day. I loved it. It opened my mind up to all kinds of ideas. It helped heal a lot of things inside of me. It provided me with just a lot of really awesome, life-changing things
You
and
start depending on that.
knowledge. right, but you start depending on it. And when I was 25, I just, I don't know what had happened, but every time I would smoke, I would get anxiety attack, anxiety attack, anxiety attack. I mean, it never failed. And it got to the point where I mean, I haven't smoked, I'm what, 20, I'm 32 now, going to be 33, stopped at 25, however many years that is, what, 7?
Almost
But,
10 years.
oh, wow. Yeah. But exactly. That's how time flies. Really. It really does.
Especially when you
And,
have kids.
yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
see where that
I
time
mean,
goes, you know what I mean? Like you see the change. It's like when
yeah.
you're growing a plant or something, and you see the plant. You don't look at it for a couple of weeks or whatever. You come back like a little bonsai tree. It's like, oh fuck it, look, it grew some more, it grew some more limbs, it grew some more leaves, and that's what I feel like kids are, like little bonsai trees that you got to take care and nurture and shape into what you want them to be. You know, whether that's the man that you want them to be or the woman, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
I just how psychedelics aren't for everybody. I do believe that parenting and parenthood is not for everybody too. I think
I
that
agree.
it takes a special kind of person to be able to raise. You're raising and forming another human fucking being, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Life's not about you anymore.
it's not, and like that's like the
Yeah.
biggest thing for some people. It blows my mind, dude, that some people are able to just neglect their kids and these deadbeat fucking dads that just abandon their kids. And regardless of the
Sad.
fact, like if something does happen with your spouse or whoever it may be, I don't think that you shouldn't. It's not the kid's fault.
No.
It's like it's not the kid's fault that like my parents got divorced when I was 7, but my dad was always there, and I was raised by my grandparents, so on my dad's side. So I always
Yeah.
had that my dad in my life my entire life, and even till this day. So it's not like I had a bad childhood, but I didn't have the typical relationship with my father, like how you see in movies and shit, where they play catch with you and all this stuff. I never had that. He provided for me financially, and I always had everything that I needed to have. So when I had my kids, or my kid, I just told myself that I wasn't gonna, neglect them like that.
Yeah. You don't want to repeat
So,
the mistakes of our parents. Yeah. You want to do better, which, yeah, I mean, that can be a double-edged sword too, but you're right. I mean, you don't want to repeat the mistakes of your parents. So therefore you correct, and hopefully they turn out to be great human beings. I mean, I've seen people that they were great parents, and it's that nature versus nurture, They were great parents, did everything that they thought was right, loved that child, and whatever that child's fate was, they turned out to not be great people, maybe died young, got into serious drugs, uh, the man's drugs. And so it's definitely a tightrope act, but you just got to be a good person and try to teach them to be a good person, and that's all you really can do.
yeah, I get
But
emotional
definitely
talking
just
about
being
it
there.
because like it's like you just live back like all your childhood and shit, and like I didn't know this was gonna be a fucking therapy session, bro. Oh
Yeah,
shit, man. But yeah, it's nah, kids are awesome though, dude. Kids are awesome and they change and they make you a better person. So,
yeah, I agree.
but fuck,
I
dude. I
agree.
mean, you fucking made me cry and shit, dude. So,
Hey, that's cool, man. That gets to the core of you. Everybody's like, "Oh man," like I think that's awesome. I really do. So
moral of the story is don't be a piece of shit and treat others with kindness and respect and live.
exactly, and treat the environment around you with respect, and don't be a piece of shit. It's like your trip, where you had that realization that we're a virus. Let's not be a fucking virus, people.
Yes, sir. So, I don't know if you shared your social media at the beginning, dude, but we'll go ahead and call it. It's gonna be dubbed the therapy session. It talked about the arts, the ancients, and the mushroom nightmares. So, one more time for the listeners at home, dude. Where can people find your
Um,
work? And I'll have you back on again, dude, because it's a very deep conversation and just sharing experiences and stuff.
yeah, yeah, this was awesome, man. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, people can just find me on Instagram at Tron's Universe. I definitely like if you don't go give me a follow, go to Paranoid American, give Thomas a follow, paranoidamerican.com, and just keep an eye out for my coloring book, and we'll see what else coming down the pipeline. So
All right, so dude, how do you feel about your first podcast in the books?
you know what? I'm really excited. I'm really happy, and I'm really proud. And yeah, so thank you.
Awesome, dude. I appreciate you coming on, dude. I had a great time, even though it got a little bit emotional there, but that's what life is all about, right? Like living these experiences and just trying,
Yes.
like how I
Yep.
said, become a better person and don't be a piece of shit. And yeah, treat the world and the planet with some respect because we only have one of them. And when this shit's gone, I think that's what Elon Musk is trying to do. He's trying to piece the fuck out before everything, crumbles beneath their fucking feet. But yeah, that was a great episode, man. I had a lot of fun. Thank you again.